realized that the question is not about how do I keep myself informed, but it's actually about staying sharp, which are maybe two different things. Because being informed, we all, read newspapers, we read blog posts, we read books, etc. Right? That's how we stay informed. But how we stay sharp is more about really a practice in a way. So the two ways I do this is, one is kind of creating the environment to be sharp, which means health, getting enough sleep, exercising, but also avoiding decision fatigue, so that the moments when you really do have to make critical decisions, you're aware. So maintaining a lifestyle where you limit the decision fatigue, so you're sharp for the critical decisions you have to make. And then the other part is sort of practicing to stay sharp, especially these days when it's a very attention deficit environment. It's very easy to get distracted. So many things are available. And we are inherently designed, human beings are inherently designed to conserve energy. So anytime we're trying to do something that takes a little bit more energy, we are naturally drawn to not do that. So if you're going to read a complicated article or complicated paper, it's very natural to then switch to, let me go on Twitter, or let me go on my phone or something, right? It's very easy to go do that. So in that sense, I actually do practice sort of focusing and paying attention for long durations of time. So like taking a technical paper, like setting my phone on a lock so I don't distract, and really just forcing myself to pay attention, finish reading this thing.
I'm a big believer in lifelong education and constantly educating myself on new things, whether it's technical with what we do here at the company, or whether it is based upon business or marketing or sales, and it may be reading a book, it may be listening to podcasts, it may be going to like a tech council webinar or seminar and learning from experts. And even I went back to school for the first time in 30 some years to kind of sharpen up my writing skills. So just kind of keep doing that and make it a priority, not I'll get to it, but it needs to be a priority. And even to the point of setting aside, when I do a task and I've got to learn a new tool or a new process, setting aside the time to not just get it done, but to really learn it and take some time to dig deeper into it. So the next time I do it, I can be very fast. I think timeless is listening, and not just, hearing, but hearing, right? Not just letting people talk, but actually hearing and understanding what they're saying. I want to say that's a huge, regardless of what kind of leader you are. And there's, of course, different kinds of leaders and how they lead. And I think you have to listen. And I think the second one that has become maybe jumped up on the list is flexibility. It's always been an important trait of a leader, but I think we've learned nothing more. If we've learned nothing in the last 2 years, it's be flexible. For my style of leadership, it may not work for other folks. Leading by example is really important. I feel really strongly that I should be able to do what my employees do, and even if I don't do it, I should know kind of how to do it, or at least understand it, and occasionally actually do it. It's not necessarily the best use of my time, but it helps them understand that I understand what they're going through. It helps me help them solve problems and things like that. I think for me, again, my style, thinking about the long-term big picture rather than today's crisis. So combining strategic and tactical. I think good leaders can combine strategic and tactical thinking.
The rate of change in our industry is getting faster and faster. So really, if I have to put it differently, the most important trait for leaders is to have different mental models that they can apply to a situation. Because, as a senior leader, when you come into an organization, it might be in a different place, right? It could be that a team is struggling, or it could be a team is executing well, or maybe they don't have a good technical strategy, or we work in socio-technical environments, so there could be lots going on. And you have to arrive with different mental model and be ability to update your mental model so that you can solve problem correctly. One of the things I see, for example, it's a lot around agile transformation in our industry, where Sometimes leaders have a single mental model of what an agile executing team looks like. And then without understanding the situation or understanding the company or the culture or even kind of where they are in their technical maturity, they might apply the same mental model again and again. And that doesn't then work. So the most important trait for a successful leader, and that goes with technology as well, because you're thinking about cloud, or you're thinking about, like, there are 10 different ways to kind of move to cloud. And if you have different mental models you can apply or upgrade your mental model, that really helps you be successful.
Starting the business, right? So our company, a little background, we're 28 years old. We basically are a value-added reseller to mechanical engineers that also does consulting for mechanical engineering. So we help people who make physical products. And we started the company when there was no such thing as a startup, right? That was not a thing. You hung your own shingle was kind of the term, right? So if you were an engineer and you wanted to go out and start your own business, it was really more of a consulting model than anything else. And in 1994, in the midst of a bunch of layoffs, we decided that the technology that we used as our what we did for a large corporation was applicable in other industries, and we should start a company based on that. And taking that leap of faith and going for it, what was the big risk? And what did it do? Well, it got a 28-year-old company that seems to be doing well and meets our goals of creating a place for people like us that want to go to work, get up in the morning and want to do what they do. That was one of our founding principles. And we're not a growth company. We're not the kind of the raise money and sell type of a thing. This is a different kind of endeavor, and I think we've done that. And that's definitely the biggest risk. I think the second biggest risk further on, and I have to take it all the time, is trusting other people to do stuff instead of me doing it. And it's hard as an entrepreneur to do that, right? You got to let go and trust that the person you've hired to do it can do it. And 98% of the time they can. And don't worry about, when the 2% happens, deal with it, but don't hold back because of that 2%.
What I find is that in business and in industry, actually in life in general, anything that happens quickly, anything that happens fast, any drastic change is usually not a good change, right? An accident could change your life drastically, but it's not a good change. Whereas all good changes in life happen a little bit more slowly. So I like to think in terms of not risk-taking, but making big bets. Making a bet that you can then go behind and work at it. Because, in our position, in senior leadership positions, a lot depends on us. So risk somehow, to me, implies like lack of care. And whereas making a big bet implies you do take care, you do think about it. And then the other part is a lot of things that appear sort of risky from the outside or look like, oh, wow, look at them, they arrived at this decision out of the blue. When you're on the inside, they're actually not that drastic. So to me, I like to think about it that way, to make big bets. But as far as career goes, the three big bets I've made sort of in my life and in my career all involve taking a step back to then able to grow. So for example, the first sort of big bet I made was choosing to go to engineering school to study computer science without ever having touched a computer yet. Similarly, when early in my career, I was in a really rapid trajectory, growing very fast where I was in one of my first companies. However, once I had young children, I made a big bet that if I took time to focus on my family, later I will be in a much better space to grow my career. And again, knowing the circumstances, what was happening at that point, what was going on with me, my family, the company, how I was thinking about life in general, I demoted myself from, I was on a rising path, I was going into leadership, and I demoted myself back to sort of IC roles. so I could have a little bit more balance in life. And again, not saying this is a decision for everybody, right? There are women who achieve great careers while managing families, and I admire them for doing that. I did not feel I was in a place to do it. So then this was but at the same time, as I was demoting myself, my contemporaries, of course, were really going forward. And if I had stuck to the path, I'd probably be much ahead in my career earlier. But I made the bet that that'll be best sort of family and career-wise, and I'll have the opportunity again. And it did happen. When the opportunity came again for me to grow my career, it actually grew rapidly, and I didn't have to, I made up time. And in the process, I had gained a lot of context. Similarly, when I moved from GoDaddy to Shopify, I was a vice president at GoDaddy, and I decided to move to a director role at Shopify. So that's taking a step down. However, to me, it was a big bet towards, which means I have to put energy and resources to sort of growing myself again, building myself up again in a new company. But the learning that's going to come, how it sets me up for next stage for my career is going to be fantastic. So that's another sort of big bet I made by taking a step back and, changing careers kind of when I was doing really well. I can only talk about my field in engineering and in technical leadership is to always stay technically sharp and connected. This does not mean that, you have to code every day. It's actually wrong to think of coding as a proxy for technical acumen as senior leadership. So as you go into senior leadership, however, you have to be super aware of, again, different ways of doing something. Like if you have to move a team into cloud, if you have to move a code into cloud or a system into cloud, like what are different ways of doing it, and be able to think through those and understanding the latest developments in software development, for example, like Agile and Scrum, whatever there are ways to adapt that approach and apply it correctly, whereas, being stuck in one way of doing it. So understanding where the industry is going and how sort of software developer practices are evolving, how they are changing. Once you're a senior technical leader in any organization, in the end, what you want the company and the technology and the platform or the product to evolve really fast. That's what you're going for, right? It's not about how much code you're going to write, or it's about, you want to evolve quickly. And as I said, the change of rate is going up. So how do you then structure your teams? What are the new thinking and org structure for engineering organization? How do you structure your technology? How do you structure your, sort of make your technology bets to ensure that in the end, you can evolve your platform and your teams and your systems quickly in a fast iteration. So, but it's really, you can't do it without staying connected with technology. One of the mistakes a lot of technical leaders make once they get into start getting into senior leadership position, and you have a lot of things to think about, right? They more and more start getting into like a project management mindset where they are delegating all technical decision making to the team, and they're just asking the team for timelines, for example, without gaining a lot more context, right? You can't make strategic decisions ignoring your technology setup. So you have to have some level of understanding of that and have enough technical literacy to make sense of that and to understand how to adapt and grow and develop those systems.
The biggest advice is to don't be a fear-based decision maker. I think I see that a lot, and you're making decisions based upon the worst thing that could happen rather than the best thing that can happen doesn't usually work out too well. One of the pieces of advice I give to CEOs is it always takes longer than you think. Always. And then whatever it is, and whether it's fundraising or whether it's getting sales in the door or whether it's getting your prototype product done or whether it's hiring somebody, it always takes longer than you think. And not planning for that and being ready for it emotionally as well as practically is really important, because I've seen entrepreneurs lose steam because it's just taking too long. And you just got to accept the fact that this takes the investor said they're going to send a check next week. They're not sending a check next week. It's going to be 2 to 3 months. if their lawyer is not involved. And if their lawyer is involved, it's going to be 6 months, right? And so it just takes time for these things, and don't let it get you down. And then also have contingency plans. Don't assume that you're going to get it. It's much easier to adapt to something happening sooner than expected than scramble when it doesn't happen when you expected it.